The story begins in a graveyard, where a drunk orc sits before a tombstone. He speaks to Tanaka, the deceased, thanking him for being the only one who ever treated him like a person. The large warrior drinks the last drop of his whiskey and wipes his mouth. He declares that he has no mementos left except for a pair of glasses. He places the glasses on his own face, deciding it is time to head off. He vows to bring a gift next time and share another drink. Swearing on the red ground, he promises to find the specific item Tanaka spent his life searching for. Leaving the empty bottle behind, he departs. The scene shifts to the entrance of the Free City Labyrinth. Guards check entry permits, noting that traffic has increased significantly since the feudal lord died a year ago. Suddenly, a guard is paralyzed by a menacing energy. He is horrified to see an orc towering over 2 meters tall. The stranger has distinct skin, wears sunglasses, and smokes a cigar. His arms are massive, described as being as thick as 3 women's waists. The guard wonders when the fortified town became a free city that allows such dangerous creatures. The orc notices they are blocking his path and asks if they are trying to get hurt or if they are racist. The guard demands to know what business a barbarian has in their city. The traveler removes his sunglasses, revealing eyes with red spots. He declares he is half human. The guards panic, recognizing the mixed blood and calling him an unwanted child while pointing their spears. Unbothered, the warrior tosses a pile of documents at them: an entry permit, an adventurer license, a church talisman, a birth record, and a recommendation letter from the royal capital. He also throws a bribe of 3 silver coins. The guard is amazed that the papers are legitimate. The half-orc relights his cigar and introduces himself as Elpus. He argues that if this is a free city, he should be allowed in. The guard grudgingly accepts the papers, but orders him to go straight to the Adventurers Guild without causing trouble. Elpus interrupts, claiming his snout tells him everything he needs to know. Before walking away, he tips off the guard that a priest who entered earlier smells of drugs from a talisman. The guard shouts orders to stop the priest, but Elpus ignores the chaos and heads inside. Using his sense of smell, he arrives at the landrace sub-branch of the Adventurers Guild. Seeing a sign for a connected bar, he enters. The atmosphere changes instantly as every adventurer stares at him. Elpus feels a familiar unease, noting that the reaction is the same in every city. He walks to the counter and apologizes for the intrusion. The bartender greets him with a slur about his mixed blood, but agrees to serve him if he doesn't stay long. The man mentions the town changed after Count Margaret died. Elpus asks if they have whiskey. The bartender is confused, assuming it is a barbarian food. The adventurer realizes he failed to find it again. Resigned, he orders local alcohol and a proper meal. The bartender demands 5 silver coins. Elpus complains that it is way too expensive, likely worth only 1, but pays anyway. While waiting, he mutters about the price. However, when the bartender serves the food, blood sausage, seedless bread, and a seasonal salmon steak, Elpus is visibly happy. He admires the quality of the food and the deep amber drink served in a glass rather than a wooden jug. Elpus sniffs his drink, detecting citrus and apricot notes, and prepares to dig in. Just then, a bottle shatters near his table, interrupting him. Frustrated, he looks toward the source of the noise. A group of adventurers is shouting at a girl, threatening to teach her some manners. The girl retorts arrogantly, claiming they should consider it an honor because she is announcing her new party. She introduces herself as Margaret von Margaret, posing dramatically. Elpus thinks she stands out more than a sore thumb. One man mocks her, calling her the corrupt lord's orphan and doubting a ruined noble can be an adventurer. Margaret dismisses their doubt as natural for super rookies and boasts that she reached E rank in just 5 days. The tavern falls silent, then erupts in laughter. Margaret claims they are witnessing the start of a legend and offers them a chance to join her future fame. The laughter intensifies. The men explain that E rank is for children and anyone can get it by completing 3 simple commissions. Margaret is embarrassed, insisting the receptionist called her a long-awaited rookie. One man insults her outfit, calling it whack. The noblewoman gets angry, scolding them for their indecency. The men surround her with ill intentions. They taunt her about her father, claiming he died filling his pockets with corrupt money. They declare they will collect his property themselves. Margaret defends her father, insisting he wasn't corrupt. The men laugh, pointing out the town celebrated his death because it allowed the fortified town to become a free city for merchants. They tell her to sell herself if she is so desperate. She starts crying at their cruelty. Elpus senses her sadness and feels her pain. He opens his eyes, radiating a dangerous aura that chills the room. He extends a hand to Margaret. She is amazed by his warmth, realizing her fear has vanished. She understands he is angry on her behalf. The orc stands before the adventurers and asks them the price of 5 silver coins. Confused, they guess 3 copper coins. Elpus corrects them, stating his meal cost 5 silver coins. The men laugh, calling him a pig and telling him to get lost. They resume bullying Margaret, insulting her heritage. Elpus's aura darkens. He declares the only ones learning etiquette will be them. An adventurer smashes a glass of alcohol on him. Even Margaret is scared. The man tells him to get lost. Elpus grins, dripping with alcohol. He insults their cheap liquor, comparing it unfavorably to the whiskey he is searching for. The men are confused by the word whiskey. Elpus lectures them on human creativity and character. He removes his sunglasses, revealing his eyes. He crushes the men, throwing 3 of them into the air like balls. He warns them to keep their hands off other people's mementos. He teaches them a final lesson. The number 1 thing that sours the taste of alcohol is a woman's tears. The 3 adventurers land on the roof, defeated. Margaret approaches him, thanking him for his help. Elpus starts picking up his ruined food from the floor. She is shocked he would eat it. He explains it would be a waste not to, since someone went out of their way to make it. Margaret smiles at his humility. The bartender brings a fresh plate as thanks for chasing out the punks. Elpus is moved, but complains internally when the bartender says the price is now 2 silver coins. He thinks that is still too expensive. Margaret sits next to him and asks his name. He introduces himself as Elpus. She introduces herself as Margaret von Margaret. He admits he already knows. She asks him to form a party with her. Elpus asks if her eyes have gone bad. He points out he is a mixed-blood orc, a cocktail of bad news that normal people avoid. Margaret winks, claiming his nose is charming. She adds that she already has a bad reputation as a corrupt lord's daughter anyway. He argues that his ears are hated and his situation is nothing like hers, telling the blue-blood girly to go home. However, she plays a trump card. She asks if he is looking for something, revealing she knows about the whiskey. As she mentions the whiskey, Elpus sniffs the air. He detects the scent of a lie immediately. Animals emit subtle scents based on emotions like impatience or nervousness, and Elpus's nose picks up her dishonesty. Clenching his teeth, he warns her menacingly. He explains that whiskey is a special drink from his dead friend and demands an apology for using it as a shameless bluff. Margaret is terrified and tears up. However, she insists that setting aside manners, she is determined to see the partnership through no matter what. He looks into her eyes and sniffs again. This time, he realizes she is not bluffing about her determination. He recognizes her desperation to talk to him. He compares her feelings to the loneliness and sadness he felt when he lost Tanaka. The orc agrees to hear her out until he finishes his meal. Margaret's eyes shine with amazement. She explains her situation. Her father was the lord who ruled the town until he died a year ago. Afterward, a new lord took over and threw the servants and Margaret out. The new lord seized all her father's property, including a rare alcohol collection. Elpus confirms via scent that she is telling the truth. He asks if the whiskey he is searching for is in that collection. Margaret admits she cannot say for sure, but claims her father's collection was the best in town. Elpus asks about the new lord. Margaret becomes serious. She reveals he is an A-rank adventurer and leader of the party, Shade of Cyrus. She declares her goal to reclaim her seat as lord, along with her father's honor and property. The warrior is skeptical about an E-rank newbie challenging an A-rank veteran. Margaret argues that adventurers succeed through hard work, and notes that A-ranks receive more support than aristocrats. Elpus is bothered by how the town changed from a fortress to a free city so quickly after the succession. He doubts the princess knows the details. He tells her that her immature bravery will get her killed in a day, and suggests she quit early. Margaret shouts that is exactly why she needs his strength. Elpus gulps his drink and refuses to help. He explains that while finding the whiskey is tempting, he won't become partners because he refuses to be responsible for her life. Internally, he believes no one can ever replace Tanaka. He mutters an apology. Margaret shakes with anger. She complains about being treated like a princess all week and says she is tired of it. She turns to the barkeeper and orders the entire stock. Elpus is confused. She challenges him to a drink-off. Drink-off is a serious contest where adventurers settle disputes without fists. They drink until someone drops, and the loser must do whatever the winner wants. The crowd notes this is likely the first competition between an orc and a noble daughter. They place bets on the orc. Elpus asks what she is thinking. Margaret reiterates her determination. She admits her bravery might be immature, so she will go all in until it runs out. She swears on her destiny that if she wins, he must reconsider joining her party. She taunts him, asking if he is a scared piglet. His ego takes a hit. He shouts for the beer barrels, accepting the challenge. The night turns into morning. Elpus opens his eyes. Margaret is sleeping on top of him, but wakes up too. She declares victory. She reminds him of the promise to join her party. The story shifts to the past. Elpus sits in a bar with Tanaka, complimenting the booze. His friend asks how many more he plans to drink, noting his wallet has limits. The orc looks sad, reminding Tanaka that he offered to treat him. The human sighs, doubting he will find another heavy drinker like Elpus anywhere on the continent. Back in the present, Margaret wakes Elpus with a cheerful greeting. He freaks out seeing her looming over him. She comments on the lovely morning. The narrative reveals that during the drinking contest, she was on her 51st drink when he downed 53 and passed out. However, Margaret claims the contest ended in her victory. Elpus cannot tell if she is lying or not. She holds him tight and leans in closely. The warrior is clearly nervous. She asks if he plans to run away after losing to a woman. Margaret reminds him of the promise to join her party. Elpus realizes he has no choice. Elsewhere, men repair the roof Elpus broke, wondering how anyone smashed through dragon skin. The duo approaches the guild receptionist, a dwarf. The official tells Margaret that she cannot form a party yet. Elpus steps in, explaining the requirements. He notes they need at least 3 adventurers, including 1 C-class member. He points out he is C-class, but she is only E-class. The receptionist agrees. He quotes the guild motto about not rejecting anyone who comes. However, he insults them, calling Margaret the despised lady, and Elpis a filthy mixed blood. The orc snips his cigar, demanding a request assignment immediately. He smokes, repeating the motto menacingly. The menace in his eyes scares the receptionist, who quickly agrees to check. Margaret turns to him, impressed that he refused to let them be disrespected. Elpus grumbles that her only strong feature is her guts. She grins and hugs him from behind. The warrior tells her not to cling, calling her sneaky. She denies it, claiming she was just a little intense. Just then, the barkeeper requests a Haggus subjugation. He explains they are swarming in the forest. Margaret is confused about the creature. Elpis explains they are small, hostile monsters that eat human spinal cords. He asks for the reward. The barkeeper offers 5 silver coins. The veteran suspects it is a newbie scam like the meal price. However, Margaret has already run to the gate, accepting the mission. Having no choice, Elpis follows. Before he can leave, the receptionist hands him a letter. Elpis asks who it is from. The dwarf replies it is from the new lord. He points upward to the gallery. Standing there, Ortorio smirks down at Elpus. Elpus looks up at the gallery, realizing the man standing there is the new Lord of Enderon. He turns to call Margaret, but she has already rushed outside, shouting that she is leaving. The orc thinks this complicates things. Suddenly, Ortorio jumps down from the balcony. He remarks that Elpus is a name he has never heard before. The adventurer is shocked by the speed, wondering if magic was used. Ortorio notes that while Elpus isn't famous, he possesses impressive documents, a permit from Count Gauche, a birth certificate from the church, and a recommendation from the royal capital. The lord asks if there is any issue with the paperwork. Elpus remains silent. The noble grins, calling the situation intriguing. The warrior sniffs the air. He detects a scent overflowing with confidence, calm and free of any bluff, like the sun reflecting on a lake. Ortorio comments on Elpus's expression, but decides it would be boring to ask who he is directly. He hands over a letter, stating it is up to Elpus whether to open it or not. However, he drops a shocking detail. Margaret is his fiancée. Later in the forest, Margaret spots a creature in the trees. It is a Haggus. The beast dashes down at full speed. The girl readies her shield and weapon. As the pack leaps with open mouths, she takes them out one by one. Elpus watches the last one get crushed against a tree. He praises her performance. Margaret credits her adventurer mother's guidance. The veteran is pleasantly surprised, noting that combat-wise, she is halfway to being a pro. Elpus declares it a complete victory over the herd. However, he notes her defense is lacking. Snapping his cigar, he throws it to distract a hidden Haggus. The warrior dashes forward with incredible speed. Margaret is amazed that his huge body closed the distance instantly. Drawing a rare, double-edged black blade, he blocks a surprise attack. She realizes this is the strength of a professional C-rank adventurer. Elpus suggests hunting 30 more. Margaret wonders how strong an A-rank must be if he is this fast, but accepts the challenge confidently. Later, they stop by a river. The orc dissects a Haggus on a rock. He explains that while the fur isn't valuable, the meat is delicious, and the blood contains antibiotics for potions. They discuss brewing medicines with alcohol. Margaret asks to try dissecting the remaining carcasses. He agrees. As Margaret works enthusiastically, Elpus steps aside. He holds the letter given by Ortorio. It is sealed so tightly he cannot smell anything, giving him a bad feeling. He hesitates to open it, sensing the timing could change everything. He looks at Margaret, realizing internally that the whiskey he seeks is definitely not in her father's storage. Just then, a dagger flies toward him. Elpus catches it mid-air. He mutters that he knew it. Margaret has been a target since they left the city. Sniffing the blade, he detects poison and realizes this is not the work of an amateur. Unaware of the danger, Margaret shows off the meat she dissected. Elpus hides the dagger and thinks the picnic is getting exciting. He tells her they are taking too long and need to move. She complains that he could at least compliment her. The journey continues, but Elpus remains deep in thought. He realizes Margaret is being targeted and decides to act. Not wanting to be put on the defensive, he creates some distance between them. The veteran points forward, telling her there is a campsite ahead. He claims he needs to gather firewood and urges her to go on and rest. Margaret turns around hesitantly, asking if he plans to disappear on his own. Elpus is impressed by her oddly sharp instinct. He makes a crude excuse about needing to urinate to get her to leave. She finally gets the point and heads toward the camp. Left alone, the orc plans to restrict the opponent's movement by taking a different route. He hopes to bait the assassin into attacking while they target the girl, or track their scent later. Suddenly, he feels a killing intent growing stronger from behind. He turns as sharp arrows fly from the forest. Elpus smiles, realizing the assassin's target is actually him, not Margaret. He drops into a stance and rolls, dodging the arrows. Sharp crystal shards erupt from the ground, which he identifies as long-range mana magic. The warrior spots a hooded figure standing in a tree. Unable to identify the scent, he throws his blade at the figure. The weapon pierces the forehead, but Elpus realizes it is just a wooden dummy wrapped in a cloak. He mutters in frustration, telling the attacker not to mess with him. More mana shards rain down from above. Elpus dodges and shatters the magic with brute strength. Hidden nearby, a female assassin watches in disbelief. She realizes he is no ordinary orc, as a normal one would have been killed long ago. Running low on energy, she drinks a recovery potion, noting he is skilled at hiding his presence. She throws more shards, but the adventurer smashes them all, confused by the lack of a scent source. Suddenly, the woman emerges from the ground. Elpus tries to catch her, but she maneuvers above him. She shouts at him to hand over Lady Margaret, calling him a pig. Nanayo kicks Elpus in the face, causing blood to flow from his nose. The orc reflects that it has been a while since he took a surprise attack head-on like that. He comments on the unique magic she possesses. The maid shouts back, calling him a half-breed pig. From a tower above, Ortorio watches the skirmish. The lord mutters that Nanayo is rushing ahead too much but decides to observe what Elpus is made of. The assassin leaps again, descending upon the warrior. Elpus dodges the attack. She vows to crush him before he can lay a hand on the lady. Realizing she is switching to hand-to-hand combat, the veteran challenges her to bring it on. They trade blows, dodging each other's strikes. Nanayo lands a hit on his stomach, mocking him as a slowpoke. Before he can retaliate, she uses magic to vanish into the floor. The maid instantly reappears from a tree, landing a kick and wrapping her legs around his neck. She threatens to snap him right there. Elpus curses the crafty maid and throws her into the air. Although poisoned blades pierce his hand during the struggle, he ignores the pain, muttering, "Not bad." Nanayo realizes she has created an opening. She spins her weapon, modifying it with a shortening mechanism and a magic catalyst. Once loaded, the device transforms into a mana bolt launcher, and she fires a massive bullet. A huge rumble shakes the area. Ortorio observes the explosion, thinking she is not bad. He recalls that Nanayo Nachgal was originally a low-ranking member of a notorious bandit group in the east. The lord assesses her ability as close to B rank, but hopes she has more strength to show. The maid leaps toward Elpus again, drinking a healing potion mid-air to recover. The orc also downs an antidote potion. Suddenly, he throws his empty bottle at her hand, knocking the weapon from her grasp. Elpus suggests they call it quits. Nanayo begins to stumble, suffering from potion hangover, as her vision turns hazy. The narrative explains potion recovery hangover. While healing potions restore wounds and antidotes cure poison, both contain lethal levels of alcohol. Drinking too much of either can lead to severe intoxication or even death. Elpus warns Nanayo about this danger. He points out that even confident drinkers know the rule: one dose only. The veteran notes she likely drank one during the initial ambush and warns that chugging a second one to continue fighting will kill her. Nanayo is dizzy but fights to control herself. She realizes internally that she hit him with ambush magic and poison, yet he remains almost unharmed. The maid acknowledges the vast difference in their strength, attributing it to his mixed blood nature. However, she glares at him, refusing to allow him near Lady Margaret. Mana shards in the trees begin to rumble. She introduces herself as Nanayo, the one who will go to hell with him. The assassin activates a trap set in advance, causing the trees to burst and fall in a suicide move. Elpus draws his weapon in response. Far away, Margaret sees a massive blast and lightning strike rising from the forest. She wonders in confusion what is happening. Back in the forest, Elpus stands in the center of a huge crater formed by the impact. He is holding Nanayo, protecting her from the blast. The orc asks if she is alive. Nanayo is awestruck by his weapon, a monstrous warhammer that unleashed thunder to counter her attack. She asks why he saved her. Elpus deduces she is Margaret's maid. He guesses she is acting on her own out of loyalty, feeling uneasy about a mixed blood hanging around her master. The warrior reassures her not to worry, stating that for someone like him, this kind of prejudice is everyday life. Nanayo becomes embarrassed. Suddenly, Ortorio appears from above, clapping. The Lord praises the incredible strike, noting Elpus showed more power than expected. Elpus clenches his teeth at the arrival. He asks if Nanayo was one of Ortorio's tricks. The noble teases, asking if they should go with that story to make things interesting. The adventurer shouts at him to knock it off, complaining that he is making things unnecessarily complicated. Just then, Margaret arrives, shouting Ortorio's name. The antagonist turns, surprised she came too. Margaret stands firm, telling him to stay away from her friend. Margaret shouts so loudly that she startles Elpus. For her, Ordo represents a complex history. He was once a young royal, then a bold adventurer who abandoned his throne, and now the nemesis who stole her father's honor and wealth. Seeing the lightning and the injured Elpus and Nanayo, the noblewoman assumes Ortorio caused them harm. To Ortorio, Margaret is a memory of his mentor, her mother. He recalls that back then, the girl was a tomboy adventurer at heart, unlike a typical noble. By their second meeting, she had become a dutiful daughter accepting a political marriage. Now, however, he holds no value in her eyes. Margaret leaps into the air, striking him from behind. Her attack is blocked by an invisible barrier. She feels as though she is striking water. Nanayo watches in awe, noting that space itself seems to block the blow. Elpus recognizes the spell. The orc explains it converts the massive concept of water into defense, like an imprisonment shield wrapping a lake around the user. Margaret attacks relentlessly from all directions, but Ortorio blocks everything effortlessly. Elpus notes that the Magic Academy considers this the ultimate art of water magic. He warns Margaret that she stands no chance right now. The veteran explains that Oratorio is protected by hundreds of billions of tons of condensed water. Breaking it would require an attack strong enough to evaporate a lake in one blow. Oratorio laughs, suggesting that with the lightning Elpus used earlier, he might be able to break it. Unexpectedly, Elpus tells the Lord that he doesn't hate him. Oratorio asks if that is a compliment. Elpus explains that Oratorio's words possess a pure scent without taint, something he has never encountered before. The adventurer admits that while Oratorio is a rival, he doesn't feel like a true enemy. He seems pleased. However, Elpus clarifies that he isn't being sarcastic. Since Oratorio is Margaret's enemy, they are on opposite sides. The Lord is confused by the distinction. Elpus warns him not to underestimate their leader. Before Oratorio can react, Margaret strikes again. Breaking the barrier, she declares her name and vows to surpass him. A smile appears on Elpus's face as Nanayo cheers. The maid is amazed that Lady Margaret managed to break through Oratorio's absolute shield. There are 3 types of magic in this world. First is universal magic, based on the 4 elements, fire, water, earth, wind, and catalysts, which is a studied science. Second is innate magic, a rare gift possessed by individuals who wield it as naturally as breathing. Finally, there are magic items. Elpus's bizarre warhammer, Great Sinner, is categorized as a unique item among them. Oratorio is stunned, thinking it should be impossible to breach his defense. The Lord wonders if Elpus diverted his attention just enough to create an opening for Margaret. He speaks aloud to his former friend, noting it has been a while since he truly saw her face. Suddenly, a figure jumps down from above, landing on Margaret. The attacker praises the strike, but vows to make her pay for bullying a comrade. Oratorio calls out to the newcomer, Shizuka, telling her to go easy since he isn't injured. Elpus lunges forward to attack Shizuka. The new fighter dodges and hops off Margaret. Margaret stands up and asks if Elpus is okay. The noblewoman brushes off the concern, saying the scuffle was no big deal. Elpus is relieved. Internally, the orc is surprised by how involved he has become. He wonders why he is taking up arms for someone else, even if they share a similar struggle. However, he admits it doesn't feel bad. He remarks that they both care for their friends. Shizuka insults him, calling the warrior a giant. During the clash, her mask shatters, revealing a surprisingly innocent face. Nanayo identifies her as a mixed-blood dwarf, noting that while she is tall for a dwarf, the lineage makes sense. Shizuka notices Elpus has the same mixed-blood eyes as her, but she focuses on his weapon. She points at the Great Sinner, revealing that her grandfather, Binkai, created it. The fighter shows off her own weapon, the Lily of the Hundred Death Giria, forged by the same smith. She wonders which one is stronger. Elpus realizes she still intends to fight. He makes a snarky comment about her and admits he is bad at sweet talk. With that, both warriors leap at each other, weapons ready to clash. A massive explosion erupts between Elpus and Shizuka. Nanayo shields Margaret, shielding her from the blast while marveling at the incredible power displayed by both fighters. However, Orto intervenes at the last second. The Lord blocks both attacks, preventing a collision, and throws the combatants apart. He apologizes to Elpus, joking that his party members love him too much. Shizuka scolds Orto, warning him that this is no time for jokes because Elpus is no slouch. The orc tells her to lower her spear. The female warrior refuses, noting that Elpus is a half-orc strong enough to go toe-to-toe with an A-rank adventurer like herself. It is revealed that Shizuka is the half-blood dwarf who wiped out Nanayo's bandit crew in the past. Ortorio comments on how tough it is to be loved so intensely. Shizuka snaps back, shouting that courage and luck alone won't help him reach new heights. The Lord ignores her and turns to Margaret. He taunts her, stating that in this age, no one needs a princess who hides behind knights. He advises that if she wants to be a leader, she must fight by their side. Elpus interjects, stating that Margaret has already proven herself. He turns to the noblewoman, recalling that she called him a friend, just like the man who once acknowledged him. He realizes this connection is why he took her side. Oratorio tells Elpus to open the letter he gave him earlier. The orc hopes it is a ticket to new heights. Margaret opens the envelope, but shouts in frustration when she finds it blank. She accuses Orto of mocking them. The Lord replies calmly that it is a letter fools cannot read. Elpus takes the paper and sniffs it. He detects the scent of whiskey, but feels something is missing. Orto explains the truth. The scent belongs to a drink called Blessed Blend. Long ago, a mysterious otherworlder created this liquor, which requires mixing 7 grades of booze to produce. This, he reveals, is the true name of the whiskey Elpus seeks. The veteran asks how much Oratorio knows. The Lord confirms they are searching for the same thing. Elpus declares that the whiskey represents the memories of his best friend and vows to obtain it. Oratorio counters that it is a liquor that grants miracles, and he will make it his. Silence falls between the two rivals. Oratorio begins to hover, challenging Elpus to compete with him for the divine liquor all the way to the top. With that declaration, he disappears into a water teleportation spell, leaving the party behind. Upon returning to the Adventurers Guild, the team submits their report on the Haggus extermination. An elven clerk handles the paperwork, confirming their success. As a result of this achievement, Margaret rises in status, earning a promotion to D rank. To mark the occasion, the group heads to the tavern for dinner. They feast on a mountain of deep-fried haggis meat. As they drink, Nanayo brings up a rumor that Orto learned his skills from a stranger from another world. Elpus waves off the gossip, uninterested in the Lord's secrets. Instead, the orc opens up about his own journey. He explains that he is searching for the rare whiskey to honor Tanaka, the friend who saved his life. His sole desire is to offer a drink at Tanaka's grave. The mood at the table shifts as the others realize the depth of his resolve. Margaret connects his story to her own mission of upholding her father's legacy. She smiles warmly, appreciating his vulnerability. Elpus, unused to such open emotion, looks embarrassed. Motivated, the noblewoman vows that they will find the treasure before Oratorio does. The veteran accepts the challenge, linking his goal to hers. However, a hurdle remains. Orc reminds them that official parties require at least 2 C-rank members. He decides they must focus on promotions and finding new teammates. The group brainstorms combat strategies, picturing how useful a rearguard mage would be. She grunts that they will get a magic user. However, he rejects the standard tactic of using a vanguard to shield a caster. Margaret is confused by his stubbornness. The warrior clarifies his stance. He will not use a strategy that treats teammates as sacrificial pawns. He lectures her on the lethal nature of their job, where one mistake ends everything. Nanayo agrees, noting the high mortality rate of adventurers. Elpus adds that almost all his former peers have retired or died. Margaret is uncomfortable with this dark talk, but Nanayo interrupts with a different concern. The maid argues that her lady is too inexperienced to take such risks and shouldn't associate with cursed mixed bloods like Orc and Shizuka. Margaret is shocked by her servant's self-criticism. Elpus admits there is logic to avoiding mixed bloods. Margaret fears he is offended, but he looks away, claiming he is used to it. Suddenly, he shifts the topic and points at Nanayo. He declares that her speed and unique spells make her the ideal mage for their team. He exposes her history as a former thief, causing Nanayo to collapse in shame. Elpus reassures her that the guild overlooks criminal records. Margaret gazes kindly at her loyal protector. She insists that Nanayo is more than a servant. She is a cherished friend. Margaret formally invites her to join the party. Just then, a stranger interrupts. A blonde elf steps forward, claiming ownership of Nanayo. The maid hangs her head. Margaret is bewildered by the statement. Elpus growls, completely fed up with the drama. He immediately analyzes the newcomers using his sense of smell. He detects the distinct metallic odor of wealth clinging to the man, mixed with the coppery tang of blood coming from the woman. He identifies them as an experienced adventurer and her sponsoring merchant. The man taps his finger annoyingly on the table while Nanayo refuses to make eye contact with him. Margaret demands to know their identities. The man introduces himself as Kankira, a merchant. The woman laughs menacingly, introducing herself as his bodyguard, Shalka Sharbek. She steps toward Elpus, announcing she is the leader of the C-rank party Goosewatcher. Pointing a finger at the veteran, she proudly claims the title of Orc Slayer. Elpus sighs, replying coolly that it is a coincidence because he hates orcs too. He mentions that back when he started, people called him something similar. Shalka is confused by his calm reaction. She watches him light a cigar, annoyed by the weird human-like intelligence he displays despite being a half-breed. The Slayer asks if he eats his own kind. Elpus ignores the provocation and looks away. Kankira addresses Margaret, noting he feels he has seen her face before. He recalls doing business during her late father's rule, complaining about the terrible tariffs back then. The merchant praises the gods that the land became a free city. Margaret retorts that foreign merchants act high and mighty these days, thanks to that change. The merchant grins, bragging that business has been great. He mentions that thanks to his success, he managed to buy a dog, but she ran off this morning. He commands Nanayo to come to him. The maid flinches in fear. Margaret and Elpus are stunned as Kankira reveals Nanayo owes him a massive sum of money. He notes ironically that in a free city, debtors have no freedom at all. Margaret asks about the amount. Kankira states it is 10 gold coins. Elpus calculates the value based on Tanaka's travel journals. He estimates 10 gold coins to be an astronomical sum, roughly equivalent to 10 million yen in his friend's world. The orc thinks this isn't money for gambling or partying and wonders how a disciplined person like Nanayo incurred such a debt. As the duo moves to take Nanayo away, Margaret tries to stop them, demanding to know what happened. The maid refuses to explain. She declares she is neither a friend nor a comrade to Margaret anymore. The intruders laugh mockingly. Margaret shouts at her servant, but Nanayo walks away, warning the noblewoman not to come any closer. Margaret is heartbroken and confused. She reflects that after her father died, she ensured all servants receive generous severance pay, making the debt inexplicable. Watching the scene, Elpus drifts into a memory of his past. In the flashback, villagers called him a monster even after he saved them from orcs, disgusted by his snout. Tanaka comforted him then. His friend explained that while the nose caused him pain, it also allowed him to sniff out emotions. Tanaka told him that as someone in grief, Elpus is the only one who can truly understand the grief of others, leaving it up to him to decide if the power is a curse or a gift. Standing up, he reluctantly activates his sense of smell. Despite his distaste for the situation, he uncovers the truth hidden in the air. The veteran detects a scent of deep affection shared between Margaret and Nanayo, which contrasts sharply with the foul odor of the merchant exploiting them. He is disgusted by the man's greedy scheme. Next, he focuses on Shalka. The orc picks up a distinct scent of treachery. She has been trying to trap him the entire time. Inside her mind, the Slayer is eager for violence. She hopes the filthy half-breed will lose his temper and attack. If he does, she plans to kill both him and the corrupt noble, framing it as righteous justice against a savage and his accomplice. Sensing the trap, Elpus announces that he is sobering up and suggests they leave immediately. Shalka tries to provoke them, calling the warrior a cold-hearted prick for abandoning a friend. Margaret begins to boil with rage. Elpus glares at the instigator, but whispers a promise to Margaret. He will definitely save Nanayo. Speaking aloud to defuse the situation, Elpus argues that a debt belongs solely to the person who incurred it. He points out that paying 10 gold coins on the spot is impossible. He challenges Shalka, asking if a righteous orc hunter would murder a demi-human simply for drinking with a debtor. He reminds her that while orcs are often seen as savages, they are legally protected citizens. The duo turns to walk away, sarcastically thanking the pair for their late-night collection efforts. Refusing to give up, Shizuka steps in front of Margaret. She asks provocatively what the noblewoman plans to do, hoping she will snap. Margaret sees through the bait. She coldly states that there are no dogs among her comrades, effectively disowning Nanayo to end the confrontation. Margaret and Elpus exit the tavern. Behind them, Shizuka mocks Nanayo, laughing that she has been totally rejected. Once outside and safe, Elpus praises Margaret for keeping her cool. Margaret breaks down in tears. She explains that she recognized the tactic from noble society. She realized that Shizuka set the stage to cast her as a villain if she reacted. Margaret admits it was sheer luck she noticed it in time and confesses she wouldn't have known what to do alone. Elpus places a comforting hand on her shoulder. He reassures her that the rejection was just a misunderstanding necessary for their escape. He confirms that his nose picked up the scent of mutual care between her and the maid. Wiping her tears, Margaret smiles and comments that his nose is more than just charming. Elpus agrees. Clenching her fist with renewed determination, Margaret vows to take their friend back. Elpus affirms the plan. After separating from the protagonists, Kankira dismisses Shizuka for the night. He confirms the plan. She is to eliminate the Half-Blood Orc soon. Shizuka agrees confidently, viewing him as her prey. However, once alone, she complains about the delay. She wishes their fates were more intertwined so she could fight him immediately, but decides to find a man for the night instead. Meanwhile, Elpus takes Margaret to the Belna company. They meet Belna, the leader of the trading firm. She notes that Elpus always brings trouble, understanding immediately that they need money to save their friend. Margaret is nervous, but he explains that he visits frequently and originally came to the city for a deal with this company. Belna lectures Margaret on the bond between merchants and adventurers, comparing it to a marriage. She explains that quest rewards alone aren't enough to cover travel, equipment, and medical costs. Merchants provide the capital, and adventurers provide the power. Suddenly, Praline, the company bodyguard, charges at Elpus. Margaret panics, but Belna calmly sips her tea. Praline insults the orc for being broke and bringing a chick along. Elpus calmly tells her she is too close. When Margaret tries to defend him, Praline shuts her down. The bodyguard calls the noblewoman trash, claiming her weakness is bringing shame to Elpus because she cannot protect her comrades. He asks if Praline is still holding a grudge over a duel she lost years ago, or because he refused to join her party. Belna reveals that the two are contemporaries who have known each other for a long time. Margaret asks what kind of people they are. Belna admits they are merchants, the type Margaret despises. However, she advises the noblewoman to fight poison with poison by using them. Belna demands Margaret to show her resolve. Without offering something of value or taking a risk, the request for a loan is meaningless. Elpus tries to intervene, but Belna silences him. She challenges Margaret, asking if a fallen noble has what it takes to be a leader. In response, Princess declares she is no longer a naive girl. Proving her determination, she draws her knife. Elsewhere, Kankira reveals his menacing intentions. He ties Nanayo to a bed, announcing it is time for her punishment. Nanayo is haunted by a specific memory. The phrase, "I do not need bread that is stolen from the people," echoes in her ears, refusing to fade. The narrative shifts back hundreds of years to the aftermath of the demi-human war. Although large-scale conflicts between humans ceased, the northern regions remained chaotic due to corrupt nobility. Rebel troops and volunteer corps appeared and vanished like smoke in the constant skirmishes. A man calling himself a gentleman thief adopted the young Nanayo. After the girl awakened her magical talents, she became a key fighter for his gang. As they stole fortunes from nobles, the organization grew in power and influence. One day, she offered bread to an abandoned boy. To her surprise, the child threw the food away. He shouted that he didn't want bread stolen from others, accusing the gentleman thieves of being no better than the nobles who oppressed them. That moment shook Nanayo deeply. As the gang expanded, the thief realized their methods were becoming increasingly unscrupulous. She admitted to herself that she didn't truly understand her adoptive father's noble cause, but followed it blindly. Lacking pride or dignity, she viewed herself as a skinny dog surviving on scraps by the roadside. Eventually, the gang met its end. Shizuka, the half-blood dwarf, wiped them out single-handedly. Holding the leader's head, the warrior called them a bunch of foolish dogs. Shizuka turned to Nanayo, asking if she wanted to join her dead comrades. Terrified, the survivor had no choice but to beg. Accepting her nature as a frightened animal, she barked like a dog to be spared. Nanayo fled to the northern region with her tail between her legs. She ran until she realized that her past sins had finally caught up with her. It was in this state of despair and realization that she eventually met her new master, Lady Margaret. The narrative flashes back to the moment Nanayo first met her mistress. Confused by the kindness, the former thief asked why a noble would help someone like her. Margaret sat beside her and explained her philosophy: if the wealthy do not share their blessings, the desperate are forced to steal to survive. Moved by these words, Nanayo broke down in tears. With Count Margaret's permission, she became a maid for the family. Although the public later branded the Count a villain, Nanayo knew the truth. Compared to actual tyrants, he was simply a bit stern. To her, both the father and daughter were beacons of light, possessing noble blood and benevolent hearts. She vowed then never to run away again. Back in the present, Margaret's earlier comment about having no dogs as friends stings deeply. Nanayo lies on a bed, bruised and coughing up blood. Kankira stands over her, complaining that he is tired of using the whip and dislikes dirtying the expensive sheets. The merchant offers her a healing potion. He explains that after accumulating wealth, a person begins to crave things money cannot buy, such as loyalty, conviction, and respect. He demands that she submit to him through pain, just as she submitted to her previous masters. Nanayo knocks the bottle away, refusing his charity. The maid declares that while he might try to buy her lady's pride, she will not break. She dares him to do his worst. Furious, Kankira resumes the beating. Enduring the blows, she accepts the pain as payment for her past life as a thief and a failure. Kankira grabs her from behind, calling her a disgrace. Internally, she confesses her true feelings. She realizes she never wanted Margaret to become an adventurer because she feared being left behind as her mistress evolved. She also reflects on Elpus. Although he possesses overwhelming strength that frightens her, she respects him because he forgave her. The servant admits that her true desire is for the three of them to adventure together. Suddenly, a sniffing sound comes from outside. The wall explodes as Elpus bursts into the room. The orc declares that the nasty stench of lowlifes led him straight to them. Nanayo begins to weep with relief. Margaret steps through the dust, shouting at the merchant to return her friend immediately. Now it is Kankira who trembles in fear. The scene shifts briefly to the aftermath of the negotiation at the Belna company. Belna teases her bodyguard, suggesting she must be annoyed that Margaret managed to take Elpus away from her. However, Praline simply states that she accepts the noblewoman's resolve. Back in the merchant's room, Kankira is panicked by the sudden intrusion. Nanayo cries out for her mistress. Margaret surveys the scene, realizing her friend was tortured in the dark while tied to the bed. A terrifying rage boils up inside Margaret, described as a jet-black, freezing current, far more intense than the anger she felt toward Ortorio. She turns to Elpus, ready to unleash violence. However, the orc stops her with a stern warning. He tells her that if she loses herself to rage now, he will leave the party immediately. Margaret falls silent, snapping out of her bloodlust. Elpus reminds her not to waste Nanayo's sacrifice by acting recklessly. Regaining her composure, she thanks him. She turns to Kankira and hurls a heavy pouch at him with all her strength. The impact knocks the merchant backward. Margaret tells him to take the thing he loves most. Kankira scoffs, doubting she could produce the 10 gold coins required. However, when he opens the bag, he finds 20 gold coins inside. The merchant is stunned. He realizes that gathering such a massive sum in such a short time is impossible without the backing of a major company. He stares at Margaret in disbelief. Meanwhile, Elpus gently scoops Nanayo into his arms. He apologizes that it is him holding her instead of Margaret, explaining that their leader has a score to settle. Nanayo grumbles that she never thought she would be saved by a half-blood pig twice. Elpus ignores the insult and speaks to her heart. He reveals that he knows the truth. She wants to go on adventures with them. Nanayo is amazed that he understood her internal thoughts. The veteran tells her she can complain as much as she wants from now on, effectively welcoming her to the team. Nanayo nods, accepting her place. Kankira stands up, furious. He shouts for them to cut the crap, declaring that he alone decides what is bought and sold. Suddenly, 2 heavily armored soldiers burst into the room. Margaret notices their distinct beak-like helmets. Nanayo screams a warning, identifying the armor style as Shalka's. The soldiers draw their swords and dash toward Elpus.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.